Ryan is a good friend. He owns Gulf's Insurance. He owns Warrior Wash. He owns One Event Canton. One of the things Ryan told me is that his dad told him life's a big monopoly. You gotta learn how to play it.
My dad was a CPA at Allen Rogers and Oslet over in Troy. I was always kind of the numbers kid, good at math, that type of thing. So it was always a dream of mine to go follow my dad. I didn't think public accounting was something I wanted to do. Career, I like the numbers, so that's kind of where I got into what I got into. I went to Bloomsburg after high school, got a 4-year degree in business administration and accounting, became a CPA. I was there for about just under 3 years. You know, it just wasn't quite for me. We did a lot of auditing, did all the school districts in the northern interior here. Had a chance to take a job at First Citizens Community Bank and their finance department. So I did that back in '01. I was there when the Twin Towers fell, so that's how I can remember it paid. You know, $28,000. My thinking as far as getting into investments was to, hey, I wanted something for retirement. I wanted to buy stuff that would pay for themselves. If you didn't have a job, at least if you had a bunch of rentals and they were all paid off, you know, you got $100,000 a year coming in from that. Actually, we bought our first one in 2001. Then in 2002, we bought 3 more. 6 months later, bought 3 more. We kept piling on. I did it kind of unorthodox way. You can't do it as much nowadays as you could back then, but I did it with all no money down. I never had a dime. Never spent my own money on anything until probably 3-4 years ago is when I think that was the first time I actually put money down on a property. From 2001 all the way to probably 2022, I used other people's money, never my own. So when I got into the rental business, I looked at 3 things. You got to be able to afford the mortgage payment, the taxes, and the insurance. 3 things. You also had to think about, look, what could go wrong? What's the worst case scenario? What's my exit plan if it doesn't work? It wasn't that big of a risk to. Relationships is huge for young people. They tend to want to do a lot of stuff on their phone right now, and that forgoes a lot of face-to-face relationship stuff. You know, the first place we bought was $40,000, and we actually borrowed 48 from the bank. That nowadays that never works, but it did back in '01. In '02, I had a principal, high school principal, that was selling 3 of his properties, rental properties. He knew me from high school, thought a lot of me, had some integrity, so he offered to finance 20%. I was like, all right, that's a done deal. I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to borrow 80%. The bank's going to say yes because their loan to value is 80%. That's what they live, you know, as long as they're collateralized, they're in good shape. The seller takes 20%. I do a 20-year amortization with them as if they are the bank. 15 is probably the way to go, as I think Tim said, or somebody else. But in my world, it was always 20 years because I knew I could do a 5-year balloon with somebody that financed me. And I knew after 5 years, I could go back to the bank and ask for the payoff amount that they needed. So the numbers just worked out good. And that first person did it. Next thing I know, a buddy of his that my wife was also a teacher in school and knew my wife, he was selling a couple of his places. So you begin with relationships, and once you do one of these, you can do 40 of them because you have a reputation of making it work. And that's what we essentially did. I couldn't tell you how many properties we bought, but it was all with no money down, and it was all essentially the same way. Mark's selling his for $100,000. Okay, I'm going to the bank for 80. He's financing 20. And after 5 years, I'm paying him off it. So it's a win-win-win for the bank, the buyer, the seller. We did that for many years. I was never worried about debt. If anything you're involved in is paying for itself, you shouldn't be worried about that. Sure, that would go against Dave Ramsey. But what going into debt does to generate your wealth is unbelievable. Because over time, your rents go up, your property goes up, your loans come down. It has a tremendous amount impact on your net worth. You know, my net worth just keeps going up. You know, it goes up $1 million every year, and you're just like, what happened? But that's how, is because your assets that you've acquired over time keep kind of going up. You know, your rents have gone up, and then your debt's going down. And as long as it can pay for itself, I never cared how much I was in debt. Didn't matter. I couldn't even tell you what the high point was. It was never a factor because they were all paying for themselves. It was probably $4 million, something like that. But I didn't care, because what's the worst thing that can happen? You have to liquidate the properties that you had, and there was really no risk there, even though, hey, you're $4 million in debt, or whatever it was. So we did the rental thing. We got numerous properties, probably had 30 some units at the highest. Had other opportunities to go above that. Really kind of thought that was probably a good way, you know, good spot to be at. Didn't want to get so many. And nowadays, maybe you experience the same thing. Some of the renters you're experiencing nowadays, it's great to have long-term tenants, but if you got them, they're a premium, but you don't see a whole lot of that these days. It's a little bit harder, and I sold most of my rent. I still have a couple, but nothing. I sold 20 some units to 25 units 2 years ago, and it's probably the best thing I did, because I've been in the business for 24, 25 years, and I never knew anything different. From when I was 25, I started buying rentals. So getting them off my plate, it was just, you know, the things you deal with on a daily basis is just something that, you know, it was welcoming to me to not have to deal with, you know, on a Super Bowl Sunday, hey, my refrigerator light went out, or something stupid like that. Probably, we did the rental thing, sold those a couple years ago, but going back to about 2013, I got bored with the bank. I was ascending in the bank very well. I was high up in the finance department. Who knows, could maybe be a president someday. I was right underneath Randy Black. Randy Black was my boss. He's been the president since '04. I switched sides of the bank a couple years before I left and got into credit administration. I had a good background between finances, real estate, taxes. It just seemed right to do the rental thing. I managed a couple $100 million investment portfolio, so I had a good background there too. But I had a chance to buy Welch Insurance from Carol Welch. This was going back in like 2012. I sat down with her a few times. I could buy it with no money down. So I'm like, this is too good to be true. So I probably dragged my feet a couple of years, at least. But every time I thought about it, I met with her a few times. Even though you had frustrations working with the bank, you knew where you were at, right? I had 5 weeks of paid vacation. I got it pretty good here. I could come and go, you know. You didn't want to necessarily give that up to go into business for yourself, but if you ever get the chance, do it. Because it's been great. Paid her off. It's a 10-year note. One thing to keep in mind if you're going to buy businesses from somebody, the bank is never going to give you money to buy from somebody that includes goodwill. All right, they're going to base your loan off from how much the property's worth. Okay, the actual physical property, where they might have a lot of goodwill involved. Typically, the owner is always going to have to finance it to get out. Typically. Sometimes, you know, the Chris Moores of the world could come in and say, hey, I want to buy your business. That's usually not the way it's going to happen. So typically, it's easier to show somebody that's willing to sell why they should maybe finance it themselves or a portion of it. Bought Welch Insurance in 2015. Bought multiple other property. I have a farm in Kentucky, 300 and some acres. I've got land in Ohio. I got 275 acres in New York State. I live on a farm here, 260 acres. that we own, me and my wife. We have a lot going on. Then probably in 2019, Ryan Landon came to me and said, "Hey, do you want a car wash?" I'm like, "No." I mean, that was the second time he's asked me. I'm like, "No, but I'll always sit down and listen." So I sat down with him. Again, I could buy $1 million property or business with no money. So, okay, let's sit down. I knew it's not something that I wanted to do myself. I'm the numbers guy. I'm not the mechanical. I needed somebody. I have a partner, kind of a handshake deal partner with somebody. I informally gave him 25%, and he'll buy it from me at some point. So I knew I had to bring in somebody that could take care of it, run daily operations, that type of thing. And I'm just in the background. I own 100% of it, but in my mind, he owns 25%. So I knew I couldn't do it without somebody like that, because that's just not me. So my thought was to own it for 8 or 10 years, sell it to him, be a blessing to him. He wouldn't have been able to do it. If you can buy something with no money down and it pays for itself, all you're doing is increasing your own equity over time. Your property values go up, just like with the rentals. Your property values go up, your debt comes down. It just has a compounding effect on your net worth. But everything I had is in dirt, and it's worked out well. And on the flip side, when you go to sell it, I try and play bank, all right? So when I sold my rentals, I did the same thing that the seller did for me when I purchased. So I financed as much as I possibly could for the person of all my rentals. And it ended up being a good chunk of change, but in the process, I'm making $250,000 worth of interest over the time period. Well, some of you say, "Well, I don't want to do a 20-year amortization." Well, if you look at an amortization schedule, 20-year note, you're going to find out that in the first 13 years, 82% of that interest is paid. So why go the other 7? So that's what I sat down with Alex Shader bought all my rentals. I said, "I'm going to finance X amount." I gave him a decent rate that the bank wouldn't touch. My goal is to have him pay me. I did a 1-year only, interest only. I'm not worried about him. I'm second mortgage. I gave the bank the first mortgage. So I'm the one with all the risk, really, as far as the bank goes. He was able to go to the bank and be like, "Hey, I need X amount." Done deal. I'm the one with all the risk. But I'm not worried, because I know what the properties are worth. And if I need to take them back, I'll take them back. But by doing a 20-year amortization with him, I did 1 year interest only, which was fine with me, and then start the amortization. I said, I don't want any prepayments until 13 years. Pay off in 13 years, where before I did a lot of the 5-year balloons. I want a balloon in 13 years. And that allows me to get 82% of that interest on that 20-year note. But I don't have to go the 20 years. I can only go do 13. I'm a young enough guy. I just turned 50, so I'm all right with that. A lot of people may not want to finance because of their age or whatever, and I get that. But the balloon payments are the key thing that really helped me increase our balance sheet to the point where it really starts compounding. Now I'm at the stage in life, my wife owns Fighting New Hope Counseling right there next to the high school. She has that. I have rear wash, wealth insurance, and I had the newspaper too. I'm in the mode of simplifying my life and getting down to the simple things, spending more time on the farm, doing what you want to do. I mean, I see it. You know, everybody's got the farm aspect there. Most everybody. If you don't have one, you might as well have one, because there's not a lot you can't write off on a Schedule F. I'm just telling you.
Preacher, brother.
I'm telling you. So that's the other thing. I mean, I have a lot of good businesses, but I have a pretty good loss on my farm, and it serves a purpose. And there's a lot of things that you can run through that legitimately that really help you out with taxes. There's not a lot that I can't write off, to be honest with you. Even our horses at home, my wife used those horses as trading. She had people come to the farm. You know, where else can you write off? Horses, horse feed, everything. Anyway, I'm at the stage in life where I'm trying to simplify things and really only get down to working with people that you don't want to. So you get to choose who you want to do business with. And the people that are more of a pain in your butt, you don't need that. That's where I'm at in life. I did it all because I wanted a retirement. And so everything I've done, I've never put a whole lot of money in the stock market. It's always been dirt. And I always figure when I'm ready to move off from those properties, I'm going to finance them and play bank for the next person and make the 5, 6, 7% myself. And it helps with the capital gains and everything. And it also helps people. I've helped people buy houses and stuff like that where they wouldn't otherwise been able to do. And so that's satisfying. I will touch on, a lot of you have talked about just uncanny stuff as far as the Lord goes. It really is true. I can echo what some of you have already said about as you get up and more mature, more financially mature, stuff just keeps coming your way. And it's all because you've been a good steward of what's been given to you. I've had weird stuff happen where, you know, you're giving away this amount of money and then somebody you thought was never going to pay you again comes back with back rent that they owed you. I mean, just stuff that was the same amount. You know, I was like, well, I didn't count on that. And the opportunities you get when everything's in line and you're doing it for the right reasons, opportunities keep coming your way and it's uncanny. And sometimes it's just like, leave me alone. I don't want to buy this. I remember Jim coming to me. Maybe he came to somebody else. Jim's Sporting Goods. Hey, you want to buy this? No, I'm a huge hunter. The last thing I want to do is be tied down when the fall comes. Opportunities always come your way and be grateful for it. And your reputation precedes yourself. So if you get the reputation that, hey, there's a good business guy or whatever, you can, you know, we talk about renters. I mean, this day and age, you know right away, or pretty close, once you rent to somebody, what type of person they are. And if there's somebody that you can really nail down and say, oh, he's going to pay me Wednesday. And, you know, if he pays you Wednesday, okay, great. A lot of them nowadays, you don't know what they're going to do. They tell you one thing and do another. Don't ever be that person. Bend over as much as you can to make sure you follow through with the words that you say to somebody. That's the thing. You know, I've got to pay the bank still, right? Some of these people nowadays, well, they got to, I'd like to get a tattoo and, you know, I got a cell phone and I've got to get, no, man, your mortgage is the key. That's what's got to be paid. There's the level of priority that you have to have. And so it's now, anyway, I'm just rambling on here. I don't know what else I got to say. See you, buddy.
Did you notice? Oh, sorry. Sorry. I was going to say, did you notice? It was after COVID, in my mind, that the tenant quality just tanked. Is that what?
Well, because COVID entitled them to do whatever the hell they wanted to do with your property, and you really couldn't do nothing about it. That was the icing on the cake to me. I was like, no, I don't need that.
Thank you, Ryan.